So, hi, this is Phil and Rosie Mader-Grayson from Oxfordshire. We used to live at Bridge House, which was a community house just a few miles away from here, and we recognised that when we were there, we seemed to get dazzling glimpses of God's glory quite often, and we noticed them. Rosie's just going to tell you about one now.
Right, well, one day I was driving over Shillingford Bridge, that house was named after, and I saw a spectacularly bright light coming out of our field that's by the bridge. And I couldn't think what it was for a moment, and then I realised that it was the low evening sun being reflected off the windows of a caravan in the field, which was being lived in by a homeless chap who'd been living sort of on the edge of society and had got as far as living in a caravan. It was none too clean, but the sun was so bright that the caravan was absolutely dazzling. And I was just blown away by that. It's such a wonderful picture.
It's just a vision of how all of us can be reflecting the glory of God in the things that we do and the places we go and the people that we meet.
We don't have to be perfect. It can be quite grubby.
Yes, and I remember again before lockdown, I was on a meditative walk in Wallingford, and I stopped for a while on the castle grounds in Wallingford, looking down over the River Thames. The sun was beginning to, well, it was up already, but it was shining on us. There were some cattle in the field and there was a copse of trees, and I just stood there for a moment, closed my eyes, and it was just one of those mystical moments when I felt like I was just completely joined and contained and connected to everything around me, like my feet had roots, and that was connected to the ground and to the cattle and to the trees, and it was just a spectacular glimpse of that connectedness of being in the presence of God and and seeing his glory. So during the pandemic, we actually sold Bridge House and moved house to where we are now in Cholsey, about 5 miles from where we were originally. That was quite a difficult move, a stressful move, moving away from a house that we've been in for a long time, and moving to a new place, which is it's quite a lively village that we've moved into, whereas we were in quite a rural setting before. But it's interesting that our experience of glimpsing the glory of God has changed as well, from the rather spectacular stuff that happened at Bridge House to the more everyday kind of things that we encounter here.
Yes, I think we used to be interrupted by experiences of God's glory, and now you don't see what you're not looking for, and we need to be aware of those everyday things that are much more part and parcel of most people's lives. So for me, morning prayer was very, very important, and it was the routine of morning prayer. It didn't bore me, it gave me joy, the routine. And one morning I was reflecting on beholding the beauty of the Lord and seeking him in his temple, seeking them in their temple. You are the temple of the Holy Spirit. I almost heard a voice. I'd been imagining sort of grand buildings, but God was saying something else about dwelling in the depths of my being. Not only out there, but in here. A glimpse of glory. And there was more. Be in the heart of each to whom I speak, in the mouth of each who speaks unto me.
So the place, the temple, if you like, of God, where we encounter him and see glimpses of his glory, is within us, but then within the whole of humanity, the whole of creation. God's presence is revealed in all of those places, and so we can learn to expect to encounter God in all of those places.
So we need to be looking for God's glory, be ready to be surprised, and expect to see God's glory. When you think of the bare branches in the winter and the twigs, I found this winter really particularly long and particularly dark. This last winter, worse than the one before in many ways. And the bare twigs have given me hope, because I know all of my 68 years, the twigs have burst into green leaves in the spring. It always happens, and it's always a miracle to me. So we have these things to look forward to if we keep our eye in. And one thing I have done on the gardening line, this isn't Gardener's World, but you know, one thing I've done on the gardening line this spring is to plant a little garden on the shed roof. That there is our bike shed, and on the roof is a little garden. Shed roof garden. Well, here I am in the front garden now, just going down the garden path, walking to Tesco's. It's not far, and I'm remembering a conversation, or 3 conversations I had one night when I really needed some chocolate during the adverts. So I'd nipped out at the beginning, first adverts in the programme, and I nipped out expecting to be back before the end of the programme, before the end of the adverts. But of course, I met 3 different people, had lovely heartwarming conversations, and felt thoroughly connected to this new place we're living in. And yeah, I did get back for the very end of the programme. But we're all connected, aren't we? We're all connected. We're all connected.
So I think there's a sense in which our theme of catching the glimpses of God's glory have been to do with our connectedness and our kind of solidarity with humanity, with creation, and recognising the presence of God in all these things. One last thing I'd like to share with you is an incident here from my office a few days ago, when a builder that we've taken on to do some work in the house here called by to talk about when he was going to be able to come and work, and he said he was sorry that it's going to be a bit later than he had anticipated. So, I mean, I asked, you know, what's the problem? And he said, well, I've just been to Poland taking shoe boxes out for the children refugees from Ukraine, and I'm going back again next week in order to take some more stuff that they've said that they desperately need out there. And it was really, for me, just one of those awesome moments when it was as if an angel of the Lord was standing on the doorstep telling me about this stuff, because Ukraine still seems to be over there, you know, away from us. And although we've tried to contribute in ways that we could, here was a man standing on my doorstep who had actually been there. He ministered to the refugees, and he was going back again, and as a result would be delayed coming here to my place. I'd say it was like the angel of the Lord standing on the doorstep, and it was just one of those awesome glimpses of the glory of God brought right into my own home.